This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome, listeners, to Postcards from the Edge. I am your host, Amy Nelson, and with me this week is Joe Keegan. Joe, thanks for coming on again. Now, I missed you the first time, so I just had to have you back.
Yeah, Amy, last time you were gallivanting somewhere drinking wine too much and posting about it on Facebook. Yes, with 24 hours notice, I jumped at the chance to podcast with you today. So
yes, thanks for jumping in.
I will say that I'm drinking wine because I've spent 5 hours being tattooed today, so it's purely medicinal wine. So
right, medicinal purposes only, of course.
And Amy is under instructions if I ever become really incoherent and babble too much, then she's going to tell me to put the wine down. So
yep, I've got your back. No worries.
Got our bases covered.
Well, today we're going to discuss the fan response to Season 2, Episode 9, Project Daedalus. Now, if you'd like to participate and share your response, please post your comments on the Babel Conference. That's our listeners group on Facebook. Type Babel, BABEL, into the search field, and it will come right up. Now, at the time of this recording, there were 416 comments. I can't believe that we're in the 400s now 2 weeks in a row, Joe.
It's amazing. I think that when I podcasted with Justin a couple of weeks ago, nobody commented. We put it down to Justin and I trying to replace Amy. So we're mightily disappointed.
Well, that is one more comment, just one more than last week. So needless to say, we have a 0% increase or decrease.
I saw that when you in the show notes, and I was like, Amy can't do maths then. If one more comment is a 0% increase, that's nonsense.
Well, okay, you caught me. So it really is 0.2% increase.
0.2 is greater than 0.
That's true. But the 2 didn't round it up, so I just left it at 0 to have a whole number.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, Joe, you've seen the episode. So tell me, what was your initial thoughts and response to this?
I have seen the episode a total of 1.5 times. Once when I watched it last night while having more wine, and half a time today, but I only listened to it while I was at the gym. Because I find that when you listen to a Discovery episode, you pick up a lot more of the sound details. In terms of the soundtrack being really rich and the kind of all the cool sound effects, like that bridge sound effect they use. It sounds like a submarine, which is really cool. You have to listen to. You will not hear it in future. That's all you'll hear in future. I really enjoyed the episode. Project Daedalus. I couldn't find I have to watch it another couple of times, but I couldn't find the reference to Daedalus in the episode. So Daedalus was the father of Icarus in Greek mythology, who was trapped in a labyrinth that he built for one of the gods, I think. Mm-hmm. And as a punishment, the god put him in his own labyrinth. So Icarus and his father Daedalus decided to build wings out of wax and escape the labyrinth. But Icarus obviously flew too close to the sun and his wax wings melted and he died. So I'm not really sure how Daedalus relates to this episode, if it is a reference to the old Greek myth. Having said that, I really enjoyed it. Way too many lens flares. I want to start up my boycott of Discovery again. There was one sequence where it's like it was the 1960s and they'd just smeared Vaseline all over the screen. Like, I don't need that many lens flares. But, okay, we'll forget the lens flares for the moment. Visually, again, the opening sequence where the Daedalus is hiding in orbit of that planet before Admiral Hornwell arrives, looks visually stunning, as does all the kind of battle sequences with those spinny blade drones or mines. It looks really visually cool. I liked the dialogue between Spock and Burnham. I thought their big argument was more born out of love for each other than for some kind of undescribed hatred. Ariam's backstory was really touching and really set up her demise quite well. But I don't know why they couldn't have just beamed her out of space and beamed her directly into an airlock or a stasis pod. Commander Nan, she was dying for way too long.
Yeah.
It was like 10 minutes where she was gasping for breath. Maybe it's a Barzan trait where they could hold their breath for longer, but overall, very happy with the episode. I like character development to a point, but I do like all the big fancy space battles. They're my bag. They're my bag. They're my wheelhouse.
There you go. They're in your wheelhouse. Yes.
Yes. So, what about you, Amy? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to save my thoughts for the main show because I do have to record that with Patrick.
You do this every week.
I know.
You can give us at least a snippet of what you thought.
All right. Well, I did get many comments personally because you and your lens flares, it's me with the spinning and the upside down. And the first scene, here we are spinning around and finally landing. Like, I'm done with the spinning, please. And I thought to myself, man, Jonathan Frakes, you can do better. It's just getting old. And so the spinning with me is like your lens flares. I'm done with it. I know we're in space. I get it. It's topsy-turvy.
You developed vertigo, didn't you, from having to watch all the spinning? You should sue CBS. You've had to take time off work and everything.
Yes.
It's awful.
So that was interesting. And I had a lot of people messaging me saying, I thought of you, because it's just really annoying me now. But I thought it was a very good episode. I was happy with it. Definitely reading the comments, I can see where a lot of people are coming from, both the good and the bad. So I think it's going to be a great discussion. So let's get to the fan response. So Joe, start us off.
Okay. Apologies to everyone if I mispronounce your name. Rick Trilsh. Before this season started, the producer said that the theme would be the tension between faith and science. But to me, this season is about relationships and the good, bad, and heartbreak last week and last night that accompany them. Sister, brother, mother, daughter, father, son, with your spouse, with your friends, etc. I could go on for paragraphs, like Ariam's most cherished memory is one of family. Even last night's title, Project Daedalus, takes us back to the myth with a father's warning and a son's hubris, leading to tragic results. I only hope Michael doesn't fly too close to the sun after she's trapped in that chair next week. What chair?
Captain's chair?
We don't see it, but I take it this is from the trailer for next week.
Yes.
Which we don't get to see on Netflix.
Oh, no.
So thanks, Rick, for the spoiler. edit Rick's comment out. We should unread that.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. Interesting. So he mentioned, like me, the Daedalus myth, but I still don't know how it related to the episode.
Yeah, we've got a lot of commenters that are trying to put together the connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just assume it's something to do with Ariam's story, because that was by far the biggest part of the episode.
Yeah, that was definitely plot A. Yeah.
Technical possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like, Rick, that you pointed out the themes. Like, it's definitely about family and that we're seeing this. And interesting that it's, faith and science. That's what it was told us at the beginning, but we're definitely seeing a lot of character development and those relationships, between family and between friends. So nice point, Rick.
I think that's one of the things about Discovery, in that it's such a rich tapestry that they're weaving with every episode. That's why we can't discuss it fully, having just seen it once. You had to do it any justice, you really have to watch it multiple times to pick out all the little details and fan service points and gold nuggets that they put in for us every week.
Mark Keller says, wow, I didn't think Michael and Spock's relationship was this toxic. Kudos to the writers for giving us Peck's emotional Spock. Peck takes Quinto's emotions to the next level. Still, I can also see Leonard Nimoy in his portrayal. I think Discovery has added a lot of depth to the character of Spock. I wouldn't mind to see what they would do with other TOS characters like Kirk. So interesting. I definitely see Spock and his character development, and yeah, he's very emotional, and I think it does pick up, where we see with Quinto, and then that connection to where we see Spock in the cage. So yeah, Peck is doing an amazing job.
It's fair. It reminds me, Peck's portrayal of Spock reminds me of Nimoy's portrayal of Spock in the motion picture. Mind me, he was away trying to seek the Kolodar, and he's kind of all shaggy haired. It reminds me of that. I don't know if I would necessarily say that the relationship is toxic. Maybe I've got the fact that there was something that Spock said about Burnham always trying to take all the entirety of the burden on herself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we could mend a relationship if it wasn't for you taking the burden, so kind of putting the blame back. So it's like the relationship is fixable, but you have to change. So I think they both have to change in order for them to get back to being family again.
Yeah, agreed.
Robert Joseph, Ms. Nelson, I promise to tame my salty language this time, smiley face. Spock is very much enjoying the liberation that accepting his human emotions bring. Unfortunately, his lack of filter is furthering the divide between Michael and himself. I feel like he is enjoying the pain he is dealing to Michael, even if there is a twisted ends to his means. The Ariam character was fed to us through a fire hose in one episode. Usually I'd be annoyed at the lack of development, and then suddenly we are made aware of the backstory in one huge bite. The writers and the actor totally sucked me in. They succeeded in making me empathise for and mourn her death and for her crewmates. Lots of emotions in this episode, quite a roller coaster. Couldn't agree more. I thought one of the really interesting points was when she was reviewing her memories, and she was like, delete, save to archive, delete. I thought it's a really useful thing to do, because I imagine your memories probably just fill up of the mundane details of your life, but it's the important things that you really want to remember, which she was doing, and it helped kind of strengthen the fact that we're used to seeing kind of the relationships in Star Trek, and we got to see that through Ariam's eyes this week. So that was really cool. I didn't actually mind that it was kind of all in one episode. It felt right. I think they did it so well that I wasn't bothered by the fact that it was really quickly fed to us in that way. Yeah, what did you think, Amy, about that comment?
Yeah, Robert, it's interesting that you say that you feel that Spock is enjoying the pain that he's giving to Michael. I don't know. I can see where you're coming from, and there might obviously be a reason for why he continually is jabbing at Michael. So I'm interested to see where that relationship goes.
I suppose if you've been used to suppressing your emotions for so long, then when you decide to embrace them, it might be nice to experiment with them and see where it takes you and push the bounds of your emotional contact.
Yeah.
Bill Sweet says, good action, good plot, interesting tech twist, and I've been reduced to tears like I haven't since 1982. You're breaking me, Discovery, dang it. Don't take my sweet robot lady. So 1982, that has to be a reference to like E.T. or something.
Yes, E.T. Phone Home.
I have to Google when was E.T. out. I'm sure it was like 1982. When was it?
Oh, that's
1982, the 9th of December, 1982. It came out here. I was thinking either that or Short Circuit.
Oh, yeah, that one was a good one,
Don't
too.
Take My Sweet Robot Lady. Short Circuit's like one of my favourite movies. Johnny Five. Love it. Yes, do you know what? A number of people have said on comments that they've been reduced to tears by Discovery. I think I must be emotionally dead inside.
You must be. It
hasn't got to the point. I will never cry when Spock dies in Star Trek 2. And there was another one. There's another bit in Star Trek Jadzia's death. Oh, see, I'm not even watching it just now and I'm about to fill up with tears.
The one that gets me is Lal, Data's daughter. Oh my gosh, no.
She's in it for one episode.
Oh, sort of like Ariam?
Ariam's been in it a lot longer than one episode.
Well, but her major character story is right here. I'm just saying.
Okay, that's fine. We're allowed different opinions, even though yours is wrong.
Joe, it's a good thing I love you.
I know, I love you too, Amy. The thing is about me, if I'm horrible to you, it means I like you. So you must not be nice. It's like, yeah, I don't like you. Okay. Is it your turn?
Yes, it is.
Oh, please, Amy.
All right. Well, Daniel Huckfield from Twitter writes, what an episode. Action and intrigue, and then that awesome ending. Hashtag Star Trek Discovery is just getting better and better. Yeah, I agree. Each episode, I mean, just the cinematic value and the intrigue of what's going to happen, and definitely the action, like you mentioned, with those space drones and eating up the whole. And it really is getting so good.
I don't know what they're doing. I know they have a huge budget for every episode, but every episode is like a little mini movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our Friday night treat. It's like going to the movies every Friday night for 14 weeks in a row. I don't know if every episode is getting better than the previous one, but certainly they are just as good as the preceding episode. Love it. Thank you, Daniel. Chris Foster says, I identified with the scenes between Michael and Spock. Sometimes when you have a grudge against someone close to you, absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. You can stew over things, thinking and rethinking about what has upset you. Over time, it can really make your heart ache and make you more bitter than when it all started. I think the long absence between them has made the fracture in the relationship worse because there wasn't a resolution, just unresolved hurt. And Spock doesn't have a control on his human side, so those emotions are clearly lashing out. I think you might have hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, we saw what caused the rift in the past, that hit me. What was it? The half-breed comment.
Mm-hmm.
That was powerfully delivered, and the words were powerful in themselves. And then to have the absence, well, I would imagine make a relationship or the bad things about the relationship fester. And like I said earlier, he's experimenting with his emotional feelings, and so he's just lashing out to see what effect they have. He's a scientist after all, so he might be inclined to do that.
Yeah, Chris, I love your comment and just how personal that it is to have such a terrible incident and then to not have that closure and then to have the absence. Yeah, that does not make your heart grow fonder. You are stewing over things, and it's like the thing that actually happened becomes minuscule compared to the emotions of that absence that builds up in your heart. And I think you really, really appreciate your comment, Chris.
Amy, before you say, I know this is your comment, but I have to say this person's name. Yeah? Because
Yes,
this person
please.
likes it when I say their name. It must be my accent or something.
Please.
Although when I hear myself back, it sounds horrific. I sound like a demented Mrs. Doubtfire. Ria Papa Giorgio says,
As always, so much to talk about. Somehow I got this episode without commercials, which is not a complaint, except the ironing didn't get done. I thought the initial beach scene was a commercial at first. OMG, how I want Ariam's backstory. And yet, at the end of the episode, I was literally yelling at the TV to Michael, open the airlock, and send Ariam to her death. I was so frustrated with Michael at that point, but thank goodness for Non to the rescue. That was another thing I was yelling at the TV after she went down. What about Non? Go help Non. Did anyone catch what tipped her off about Ariam? As for Michael and Spock, he sure brings out a side of her no one else does. Arrogant, condescending. And she brings out angry Spock. Wow. Anyway, so glad we did not lose Non, but our rest in peace, Ariam. We hardly knew ye. Well, Ria, thank you for your comment. And I also was doing laundry and it didn't get done as well.
What kind of people do laundry while watching Star Trek?
Well, Ria and I do, obviously.
Okay, I wouldn't call it laundry because that's like an Americanism. I would call it the washing.
Okay.
Washing. I take it washing is a generic term for like, could be clothes. Could
or
be
dishes.
Yeah, whatever. I think Ria's last half sentence, we hardly knew ye, was maybe written for me to read because it's like Scottish.
Oh,
isn't it?
Would you like to read it?
No, well, we hardly knew ye. We did, Ariam, hardly know ye. It's nice. I can see how hard it must have been for Burnham to not open that airlock. She's essentially killing her friend. I don't know if I could have done it.
Well, and I think if you think about season 1 and at the beginning of Context is for King, like she knew the exact number of people that were killed in the Klingon War because of what she started. And so to lose yet another person, like we know that death impacts her very deeply. And so I think this was just another example of she doesn't want another death on her hands.
Yeah. But to be directly responsible for that death, that you're pushing the button that's killing them. There was another point that Ria says, the commercial scene, the beach scene. I thought there was something wrong with my Netflix.
I know.
Stream.
I was watching it and I was like, what is going on? It was completely, I didn't know what to expect. Again, from Discovery.
Yes. Interestingly, after we watched Discovery, we watched The Good Fight, CBS All Access other show. In the middle of that, they have a scene. It's an animated scene about non-disclosure agreements and there's a wee silly song. And it's like, what was happening? Have we jumped to another episode of something else? So maybe it's a CBS thing. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, and because last week everyone was like, I thought it was playing the wrong episode because it started with the cage, and now we've got starting with
awesome.
the beach scene. It's like, what is going on? What? So it's interesting. They've done that 2 weeks in a row. I
think Nan also being a security officer, she's going to be looking for suspicious things, like any security, like if airport security, you're going to be looking for suspicious people hanging around. And they were with Ariam being in that science room, starting the download of from what was it she was downloading? Was it
her memories and the transfer of the sphere?
The sphere, yeah. And then when Ariam asked Tilly to stay and watch her, Nan saw that. And so her suspicions were more aroused, so she thought something's definitely up. Schwab Mercer, 100% gut-wrenching. Ariam, no! My favourite parts of this episode was the intimacy illustrated between all the characters, particularly the memory cleaning scene with Ariam and Tilly and the scenes with Spock and Michael. We got a chance to see deeper into these characters, and I love that. Again, excellent pacing this week. Episode clocked in at over 50 minutes runtime. Every moment had emotional weight as each interaction was given appropriate time, not glossed over and cut short. The final 5 minutes was so hard to watch. Michael, Tilly and Ariam. Wow, the acting was phenomenal all round. Loved the artistic choice to play ocean waves sound during the closing credits. I have to watch the closing credits again. I've completely missed that.
Yeah, a lot of people commented, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to pay closer attention. And I really like, you and other people have said that they listen without watching Discovery, and then that, yields a different reaction. So I might have to try that this week.
It's just, there's so much in it. There's so much to say about it. Sure, I agree with your intimacy, like with Spock and Michael, and Tilly's scene at the end where she was trying to convince Ariam not to do what she was doing, and she said, "I adore you," and it just speaks of a really deep friendship. Mm-hmm. And obviously, these guys have been together for 2 years now, living on the same spaceship. I know we've not known them for 2 years, essentially, because we only get them in little 1 hour snippets. But you can imagine having to very quickly develop really close friendships if you're stuck out in the middle of space.
Yeah, and Shoaib, I completely agree with that intimacy connection, because when Tilly was talking to Ariam, it felt like we were the only people in the room. Like, it was just so intense and just so personal. I loved it. I was really sucked into that scene. Maggie Shell writes, A, crying like a baby at the ending. So powerfully portrayed and heartbreaking. B, I guess this may be part of the reason why such fully augmented people aren't as common going forward. A visor is one thing that can still be taken over by Romulans, but virtually all motor functions is another. Also makes you think of skepticism about AI with Measure of a Man, etc. And C, the Spock-Burnham dynamic keeps on giving. For many obvious reasons, this convinced me more than ever that Michael is the Red Angel and Spock knows it. He says to her, "You avoid reality because it is easier for you to shoulder burden than to face unimaginable grief." In fact, he may be doing just that himself because he doesn't want to face his grief about her having to endure the fate of being the Red Angel. Maggie, there is a lot to unpack there.
Maggie, we could have a whole episode dedicated to Maggie's comment. About the fact that we haven't really seen fully augmented people to the extent of Ariam. I think Discovery's doing a really good job of setting up things in a way that explains why we don't see them in the future. So Section 31 is obviously going down the path of they did something really bad, maybe at the hands of Control, which meant they had to go underground in the future, which is why we didn't see them until Deep Space Nine. And also about her fully augmented people. She was she's a cyborg, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. She was had cybernetic implants. And I like the fact that they explained that she was human, but she was augmented to such an extent because of the shuttle crash that she was in. I don't even know what to make of the last comment. Is Michael the Red Angel? A
lot of people are saying yes, and saying it with much confidence.
I'm excited. Henry Galarza, another Frakes gem, and by the writers too. Definitely one of the show's best episodes so far, and next week looks exciting also. Well, I wouldn't know that, Henry, but thanks. I'll have to look at the trailer. I also didn't know that it was Jonathan Frakes that directed it. I honestly don't pay much attention to the opening credits.
Oh.
I like them. I know they change every week.
Yeah.
And apparently an actor isn't in an episode. Mm-hmm. They don't get listed in the credits, unlike other Star Trek incarnations. Right. So that's quite interesting. I will have to pay more attention in future. I apologise, Henry. Yeah, I totally agree. They're doing an amazing job.
Well, Chris Chaplin writes, character, tension, and mystery. This episode doesn't spoon-feed anything to its audience. Ariam's backstory is completely implied through that brief beach memory. This is very effective writing. On top of that, we are kept in suspense over what Ariam is doing with the sphere data that she was downloading and how this might factor into the Red Angel plot. With the revelation of Control's push to evolve into sentience, the larger plot of the season is progressed, but so are the characters. It is very episodic for Discovery to commit a single episode to build Ariam's character and relationships with the crew, only to lose her. But like some of the best Trek, excellent writing, directing, and acting can produce a full character with emotional stakes for the audience. I'm thinking of Dr. Timothy in Half a Life, Hugh in Iborg, and a few others. This was a great mix of episodic and serialized storytelling with rich, intense character moments. Don't get me started on the Michael Spock scene. Love the raw emotion between them. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your comment. I really, really do appreciate it. And I do think you're right. It is very episodic, but yet continuing the overall arc. And I hadn't thought of it that way. And there were so many comments that I read that was talking about, we only got to know a character in one episode and then they die or then they leave us, and you pointed out two very good examples of Dr. Timothy and Hugh.
With Dr. Timothy and Hugh, yeah, you feel for them because they're obviously making huge kind of life-altering decisions. But I don't think they have the weight of Ariam's build-up and demise.
I
think
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay. Oh, you're the TNG expert, so... Well,
yes, they are two TNG examples. Mm-hmm. But there were others that people made reference to, so...
Justin Ozer, my podcasting buddy, this episode was riveting and amazing from start to finish. I hung on every word as they continued to unravel the season's mystery, and the Spock-Burnham conflict was played with such perfect intensity that I couldn't keep my eyes off them during those scenes. And Ariam. I've been fascinated by the character since her first appearance in Season 1, Episode 3, and in all 20 of her appearances. I've been wanting to know more about Ariam and to have an episode focused on her for a long time. I was so happy that we were getting some backstory and getting to know her. Then she dies in the final scene, and for the first time in a long time, I had no words. I just stared at the screen, barely registering the preview for next week's episode. I almost never cry on a first viewing of episodes, but I know I'll be crying on every rewatch of this one. I'm feeling very sad right now, and it's because they did something Discovery has never done for me, and that's to leave me completely and utterly shocked by what happened. Justin,
very powerful.
Very powerful. I tried to read that in a powerful, kind of thought-provoking way. We all know Justin cries at quite a lot of episodes based on our previous discussions. That's just the heartless, dead inside of me person talking. But yeah, I'm really glad that they showed Ariam. Is it Ariam or Ariam?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ariam. I really wanted to see her. Such a shame that they had just had to kill her when we were just getting to know her. That is the Spock-Burnham conflict. Really well played. I love Sonequa Martin Green's acting. And I don't really know much about Peck. What's his?
Ethan Peck.
Ethan Peck. I don't really know much about him at all, but he's making a good Spock for me. So thank you, Justin, for your comment.
Well, James Berglund writes, Ariam's fate in this episode was very surprising. I see that other people were disappointed at not getting to know the character better, but I am glad I wasn't too emotionally invested with her. Over the last season and a half, she became a regular background character on the bridge, similar to Leslie on TOS or O'Brien on TNG. When this episode began, and I thought, great, we get to know more about her. Just enough to care and want more than to have that gut punch of losing her. I think it gave her ending more impact. The fact that Ariam's AI was compromised might be why we don't see humans with cybernetic implants in the future. Also, I was really happy to see Admiral Cornwell's return and love the interaction between her and Pike. Her return also had me missing Laurel, as I love the interaction between Cornwell and Laurel's last season. James, thank you for your comment. I, too, am missing Laurel. I'm waiting very patiently for her to return. Please, I need to see more Klingons and Laurel.
I'm not entirely sure that we're going to see Klingons for the rest of the season.
Say it isn't so.
I don't know. It's just I don't think we, not knowing anything about what's going to happen for the rest of the season, I don't know where it would fit in my headcanon if we were to see them. But, Discovery always does things that surprise us. Liam Smart says, well, I would have to say firstly that the writing on this episode was great, and you could literally feel the tension between Spock and Michael. I felt like I was in the room with them, sitting awkwardly in the corner, trying to avoid being involved with anything. I also liked the Scott mention Little Voyager tie-in. I love it. Naomi Wildman for Red Angel. Kind of crafty, laughy, smiley face. Please no. Hannah Cheeseman did a great job of selling Iriam's pain when telling Michael to open the airlock. It was heartbreaking. Whilst undoubtedly a good episode, I feel that if Iriam is dead, we have lost the most interesting background character of the bridge crew. I feel that a lot of stories could have been told using her. I'd have loved to have seen her move to engineering or replace Stamets. In my head, I killed him off ages ago. Amy, after your comment to Patrick on the main show regarding the shots with all the spinning, I couldn't help but notice them in the episode. Thanks.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
Liam.
after me commenting on all the
lens flares,
the Vaseline on the lenses, and Amy's spinning, that's all we're going to see.
I know, right?
If Iriam is dead, I think that is the death of cybernetics and Star Trek crew for a while, because we don't get to see them in TOS, and then we get to see Geordi with his cybernetic implant. I thought Hannah Cheeseman played Iriam. I thought that was the other Iriam actress,
Sarah Middich. So I wanted to ask you, because we met Sarah Middich at Las Vegas last year. And so to see Hannah come in, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I like Sarah. And Hannah does great. There's no doubt. I mean, Liam, you're right. She absolutely was heartbreaking when she was in the airlock when she was telling Michael to open the airlock. Like, she sold it completely. But I want to know, Joe, what do you feel about the change in actress just after one season and after getting to know Sarah from Las Vegas?
Sarah has been in Discovery Season 2 as a human character. So I'm unsure as to why there was a casting change if she was still on cast. You wouldn't know it was a different actress unless maybe you put stills of them side by side, because they're so well made up. It'd be maybe interesting to know why there was that change. I'm not bothered that there is a change. They could have anybody playing them as long as it's played well and it serves a purpose to the storyline.
Brando Calrissian writes, an interesting episode. I love the tension in many of the scenes, especially with Spock. It would be easy to just give us the Spock we're used to. Instead, I feel like the writers are intentionally making him standoffish to give him redemption later. Section 31, heavy involvement in the season, is a surprise, but I dig another layer added to the lore. Brando, thank you. I really like that you say that we're getting this standoffish, this emotional, this, angry Spock, and then we're going to get some redemption later. I think that's going to be great to his overall character arc. Interesting comment.
I think we've seen many different Spocks over the different kind of times that we've seen him. We saw in The Cage the Spock that laughed at the singing flowers. And we saw a different Spock again in the motion picture. And then we saw he was obviously reborn in The Search for Spock and Star Trek 4. He was developing as a new Spock again. I'm not if they take this Spock in a different direction, obviously we've mentioned before that he's experimenting with his emotions and seeing where that takes the character. But ultimately, we know they're going to take him to a point 10 years in the future where he is the Spock that we know and love in season 1 of the original series. Jay Sosnicki, best episode of the season, although still a lot of clutter. After last night, it became 100% clear that Mount and Peg are what the series needed. Lewis Burnham, who is the most boring and underwritten character of the show, Lewis Tilly and the Doctor keep the focus on Pike, Spock, Saru, Evil Giorgio, and more Tyler Vaughn and Klingon mythology. Best aspect of season 1. And then you'll have something. I was also bummed that they killed Bridge Crew Cyborg Gal. She was interesting without doing anything, but she'll be back. My 2 bits.
So,
why is that not in the annoyed, angry person section, Amy?
Because Jay said it was the best episode of the season. I know, Jay, you made my call a little difficult as to where I'm putting this. But I thought it was very interesting to say Luz Burnham. I was like, oh my goodness, that is the main character of the show. So I just wanted to get your reaction, Joe.
I'm utterly speechless. Luz Burnham, she's my favourite. I love Burnham. More Burnham. Jay, I'm sorry, you're entirely wrong. And there'll be some kind of Trek FM punishment being sent to you. I know I'm just a guest and I have absolutely no power to invoke punishments on commenters, but do you know what? We'll do something.
Oh, I know.
An ugly and Bridge Crew Cyborg Gal has a name.
Hey now,
Arium.
Joe.
I'm fake angry. Mind if I say horrible things? I like you.
Yeah. Yes.
So I don't. Pike, Spock, Saru. Yes. More Tyler Vaughn. I like the Tyler Vaughn thing in season 1. I don't like the friction between Tyler and Pike, and it's getting me annoyed with Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
And I want him to just less Tyler for me, but personal opinion. Do not lose Tilly. The Doctor, I think we've already lost the Doctor.
Yeah, I think that's happened.
Kilber, I think he's away. I would lose Stamets.
Oh, so that's the second comment. Okay.
It's purely down to the whole spore drive, mycelial network, fungus, mushrooms nonsense.
Okay, science teacher.
I'm not buying in the slightest. And what's the only his scene should have been cut in that episode, I think. Was it's when he's fiddling about with his machine. Oh, it's not you. It's not you. It's not you.
Yeah.
Really? Do you have to talk to yourself while you work? No, you don't.
Spock pointed it out.
Anyways, Happy Joe is back.
All right. Well, thanks, Jay, for your 2 bits, which leads us into the segment that I like to call Bits and Pieces. See what I did there?
Yes, I do now.
Okay.
I do. My 2 bits and pieces. I like it, Amy. So smart.
All right. So Brian Diggs says some people seem to think that Arium was intended to be on the same level as Sulu or Chekhov, when actually it's correct that she's on the same level as Lieutenant Leslie or Lieutenant Kyle. But we got considerably more info about her past than we did for those characters. So again, I think just differentiating the difference of importance of her character on the bridge.
Where they all lie in a hierarchy of each other, like Sulu, Chekhov, Leslie, Kyle, and Arium, I'm not entirely sure, but she will be missed.
Yes.
Dan McWilliams, I'd like to learn more about the previously unknown cybernetic enhancements that humans get apparently after nasty injuries. Arium is basically a Robocop without the sinister aspects of that story. New 23rd century tech manual needed. I think we're getting to see them now because Discovery has the budget and we have the kind of movie, TV making expertise to make things look really cool now. When back in the 60s, when the original series aired, we didn't have the budget or the expertise. I think it's purely down to that. I think given what we know about just now in 2019, about we're starting to begin to get cybernetic implants of things like, I'm thinking like simple things like diabetic monitors that you can wirelessly check with your phone. I know they're starting to come up with augmented reality contact lenses.
Wow.
Which would be really cool. It's things like that, and people are getting things implanted in themselves to monitor vital aspects. Obviously, we've had things like pacemakers implanted for years.
Yeah, Dan, with you, I really want to know, like, who transformed her, who turned her into this augment, like, and yeah, how come they didn't turn her husband into this augment? You know, maybe he died and she was just badly injured. Like, there's so many unanswered questions. So I am with you, Dan. I would like to learn more. So thank you. Ray Leopard says, strange choice to kill off Ariam. With the actress change and this development, I'm wondering if there was a problem with the makeup process for the character. Maybe they killed off the character because the process was too difficult for the real life humans underneath the makeup. Well, Ray, interesting theory. I don't think that any of us have a clear answer, and I would like to know, Sarah and Hannah, what's the deal? Writers, what's the deal?
Because Hannah and Sarah are regular listeners to Postcards.
Of course,
surely.
Yes.
Yeah. If not, why not? You hear all these Hollywood stories of people being in too much makeup over time and having like horrific injuries from them, like the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz with the makeup that they used. I think they had to change actors halfway through because did he not suffer liver failure or something from the chemicals in the makeup leaching into his bloodstream? Not sure if that's some kind of urban legend, but certainly you hear stories about that all the time. And did Brent Spiner not have issues with the makeup that he had to wear?
I haven't heard that, no.
Possibly. But I know there are some Star Trek examples of makeup irritation, having to constantly cover yourself in makeup. And did a Bond girl not nearly die? Mind they painted one of the Bond girls for a James Bond movie in gold paint. And apparently your skin has to be able to breathe. And so with all this paint, her skin couldn't breathe and she nearly died, I think.
Wow.
I'm not making this up. I have read it somewhere.
Okay.
Honest. Justin Ozer. Why does Justin get 2 comments?
Well, because it's just a little bit, and I thought it was important to mention. And he's my co-host, you know. I have to stay on his good graces.
Sure. I'm going to read it fast then. Did anyone else notice the reference to the amazing Tilly novel, The Way to the Stars, at one point? Tilly mentions undergoing a rebellious period at 16, and that's a big part of the novel. I loved that connection. I missed that completely. I take it the amazing Tilly novel has nothing to do with Star Trek.
It's probably more a backstory like Fear itself in the Saru. I haven't read them, so Justin, thank you for pointing that out. I will. It's my goal to read it this summer. I know I'm behind.
Justin, you'll have to send me a link because that sounds interesting. Thank you.
Joshua DeVries writes, all right, another thought. Project Daedalus. In Greek mythology, Daedalus built the labyrinth, but he also constructed the wax wing that he and Icarus used to escape confinement. Icarus didn't survive, but the Red Angel has wings, and I just feel that there has to be a connection there. Sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, maybe? I don't know, but it would be cool if Project Daedalus is the plan to build the Red Angel suit. Or it could be a reference to the Daedalus class starship, but I want it to refer to the Red Angel. So we're trying to get these connections between the title and what's going on with the season arc. What do you think?
Every time Joshua comments, all I think about is Dune by Frank Herbert. Because in Dune, there's a character called Piter de Vries, who's a bad guy. I'm sure Joshua is lovely. But I just always think about Frank Herbert's Dune. Thank you, Joshua. See, I don't know if that explains. Yeah, Daedalus had wings, so the Red Angel has a winged suit. Anybody's guess is as good as mine. Daedalus class starship, is that not? Is the Daedalus class starship one with a spherical saucer section?
I have no idea. Listeners, you will probably know, so comment.
Oh, the only Daedalus class starship I can think of is the one from Stargate SG-1.
Are you crossing streams now?
I'm crossing streams. Stargate, my other favourite franchise. That and Farscape.
Oh my goodness. Why are you on this Star Trek podcast with me?
What do you mean? Do you not like Farscape?
I haven't seen any of them. Or that one you mentioned before.
Stargate?
Yeah.
SG-1?
Yeah.
What?
I know.
Amy?
I'm very focused with my sci-fi. It's Star Trek. That's about all I watch.
You really have to get the finger out and watch yourself some Farscape and some Stargate.
Okay.
They're both amazing TV shows. I'm shocked. Maggie Shell. Again, Maggie gets 2 comments as well.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Maggie, for your comment. I'm a total mythology geek, and I can't wait to see what the significance of Daedalus is. Genius inventor, creator of the Minotaur's Labyrinth, father of the infamous Icarus, etc. Alexandra I. Sandu, actually, I was thinking Control. It would have been an opportunity for Control to evolve, but now I think Project Daedalus will most likely be the creation of the Red Angel suit regarding Zora and Control. I would have liked if they both originated from the same program, but evolved very, very differently, similar to nature versus nurture. I don't think it will happen, but I like the idea all the same. Tell me what Daedalus is. I'm all for it. This sounds cool. Remind me, who is Zora?
She's from the short treks. Did you have a chance to see those yet?
Oh yeah, Zora is the Discovery.
From Calypso.
Yeah, the Discovery AI.
Yes.
Oh,
from the short trek that was 1,000 years. It was the third short trek.
Gotcha. And she called herself Zora.
Yes.
Gotcha. Cool.
That's still my favorite short trek. I love it.
I like the Brightest Star.
Yeah.
The Saru episode. I just love seeing that planet. Saru's, the Kelpians' homeworld.
All right. Well, we don't always read the positive comments only. We do get to some questions and complaints. And we've got about 3 or 4 questions, and then we're going to get to the complaints. It was interesting that this episode, this segment is going to be a bit longer because of the number of questions and complaints. So, Joe, why don't you start us off?
Chris Chaplin says, 1 question. It struck me odd that Spock could relay such insight about Culber's state of mind to Stamets. It was a lovely and revelatory scene, but I was left questioning how Spock could have such understanding. Logic powers? Or has he been watching Discovery with us? Not a big issue, but a bit of a logical leap. Like the writers used Spock as an object to push along the Culber-Stamets story. I'm assuming that conversation happened in engineering with Stamets and Spock. Again, I have to rewatch it to be able to say. Possibly it's just that he's perhaps got himself up to speed about what's been happening on Discovery and the state of the crew over the last couple of weeks, and maybe has an insight as to kind of human behaviours.
Well, and I think it was mentioned to the replies to your comment, Chris, that, you know, Spock is obviously very observant. And as he started the conversation out, like, I observed that Culber moved out of your living quarters. And I think Spock is this whole episode, Spock is giving out this advice to others, but it's really, he's talking about himself. I don't know. There seems to have been a lot that he says to others that is like he's really trying to learn about himself. So I sort of looked at it that way as well for his insights. Kevin Lee Hebben Street writes, I enjoyed the episode, but I had a question. Why didn't they use phasers, photons, or tractor beams to deal with the mines? Seemed odd having an enormous starship like Discovery try to outmaneuver tiny little speedy mines. Harry Mickelson follows up and says, probably ineffective targeting, historic issue between small craft and large craft. So when I saw that, I was thinking, yeah, why these mines just use your deflectors and stuff? But it seemed like that those mines specifically targeted starships that had their shields and deflectors on. So I think they had to take them down as to not draw attention, but then they still came at them.
But Discovery ends up having to put its shields up.
Right.
Because you see the kind of the blue haze of shields with every impact. In terms of the phasers and photon torpedoes, that's a very, very good question. It seemed obvious that you would just, even though you might not be very good at targeting them because they're moving so fast, you could do proximity detonated photons to at least hopefully damage the mines. Another use of phasers, Burnham's phaser rifle, when she's trying to blast through the door to get to Arium, is the pithiest phaser I've ever seen. It's like, pa-choo, 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 pa-choo. She might have as well just thrown wet toilet paper at the door in hopes to get in. It's a blinking phaser rifle. It should make a proper phaser rifle noise. I remember when they go to the Glen and she uses the hand phaser, or did they use a hand phaser to melt through an entire door?
Yeah.
To escape the Ripper.
Yes.
Yeah. But Burnham in this episode does a phaser rifle that does pa-chow, pa-chow, pa-chow.
Good point.
It's like, did she not charge it up before she left?
Well, maybe she didn't want to kill Arium. She just wanted,
I
don't know.
Dial up the settings until you get to a point before the one where you kill Arium, but enough to get through the door. Because phasers should make noises cooler than pa-choo, pa-choo. It should be like no, pa-choo, pa-choo. Nonsense. Anyways, it's my gripe over about the phasers. Janessa Chiarda. This was a sort of bottle episode, and I found it mostly okay right up until the end with Arium's frantic pleas to open the airlock. The actress really sold that scene. While the episode fills in some gaps about Arium's background, it also raises a lot of questions, like it is standard medical procedure to basically rebuild someone as a cyborg. Yeah, we've never seen cyborgs before, really, in early Star Trek like we did now.
So are we assuming that Starfleet did rebuild her as cyborg and augmented?
She's kind of got that Starfleet look to her, doesn't she?
Okay.
Or maybe it was another Federation member world with access to better cybernetic technology, perhaps.
I know. It's just the question of who did this to her. Yeah.
Arium's frantic pleas, yeah, she sold it, didn't she? Although not enough for Burnham to open the airlock. It was Nan that opened the airlock. So that's an interesting comment.
Matt Saltzman writes, I love the episode, but I'm kind of angry that they killed her. She was a character with ton of potential. I really think she could have become a major character in the show, like a Data type. My only problem with the series so far is that they have given the bridge crew absolutely no character development. Arium finally got hers just in time to die. Ugh. It's really not that hard to give these characters some sort of story, like anything. Look at Game of Thrones. When we were 20 episodes into that, we had development on at least 8 characters. I absolutely love Discovery, but I think they can easily give us a bit more. Well, Matt, I do agree, and there have been a lot of comments that we didn't know enough about Arium and that they just pushed it all into this one episode. And we could, I think about your comment reminds me of New Eden, and where Owo goes down to the surface with them. And it's like, we could have learned a little bit more about her history and her background and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I think the difference between Star Trek Discovery and Game of Thrones is I think Game of Thrones was written with all the character development in place already by George R.R. Martin. Discovery is obviously a new beast and has been written as episodic TV. I think if you try and go back and write in character development points, then Discovery would just become kind of an unwieldy beast. We'd have more to talk about, yes, but there's so much to talk about already. And I think as it goes on, as we get more and more seasons of Discovery, we will get more snippets of how the characters develop. And I kind of liked the little bits of character development we saw that weren't Ariam, but seen through Ariam's eyes this episode. So thank you, Matt. Ryan Gower, I like that we got some backstory for Ariam and that we finally given her current self an origin story. Overall, the episode was well done, but I have to ask, what happened to the transporters after beaming them onto the base? I kept screaming at the TV to just beam Ariam directly to the brig once she went rogue. It seemed pretty convenient to forget about a useful, and in this case, life-saving piece of tech just for the sake of plot. I think they do that all the time, don't they? As viewers, we say, why don't they use this or this or this or all the other pieces of tech that we've seen? But that wouldn't have served the story very well. Yeah, it's a bit obvious to say now. Again, there's the other point, why didn't they just beam her after she went out the airlock from space to a Discovery brig cell? I'm not sure. But yes, I didn't scream at the TV. But yes, I did ask that question, Ryan. So thanks for your comment.
All right. Christopher D. Littlefield. Yes, I'm reading your comment. The entire episode felt really forced to me. You can't give a mostly unknown character's entire personal history and relationship to her crew members at the beginning of the episode in which she dies and expect the audience to be fully invested. Not my favorite. Very happy. Nana's okay. Well, Chris, thank you for your comment, and we're going to get into a few more of other people who definitely agree with you.
I don't know. I think they did it well enough that I can forgive them for the speed at which they set up her character to die. I think it was tastefully enough done. But thanks again, Christopher, for your comment. Brett Williams. Heartbreaking, even if I feel a little manipulated. We finally get the backstory on Ariam somewhat, and they kill her off. Loved Spock and Michael this episode, and Stamets with Spock's talking emotions. Blind leads the blind. Nit to pick. I wish they'd have given us a reason for not beaming them out during the fight, or any time after, or beam Ariam to the brig from space. Yeah, I don't know if I felt manipulated, per se. I think Star Trek Discovery maybe does, to a certain extent, try to manipulate us, but I think all good TV does that.
Yeah, that is true. You know, I was thinking about this as well, and I didn't see beaming her out as an option because her programming was taking more and more control, that she was losing, right, her personal self and becoming more of this computer controlled. And so even if they would have beamed her out, she would have still had the same intent and purpose that was in her programming to kill Michael. And so I think that would have only delayed. I don't know what they could have done to stop the programming. I don't know. That's just what was going through my mind. I'm sure they could have. And then someone on the comment was like, well, they would tech the tech. And I was like, okay, that's true. But to me at that point, I didn't see that beaming her out would have changed the situation or fixed her programming at all. So
I suppose at that point, they didn't really fully understand what had gone wrong with her.
Right.
I suppose they knew to some extent that she had been kind of infiltrated by control, and she was being controlled by control. But I suppose any good Starfleet tech wizard would have taken that as a challenge to try and fix her, find out what's going wrong, diagnose the problem, and eradicate the virus or whatever it is. Thanks, Brett. Brandon Shea Mutala, I've been dying for Ariam information since the beginning. You want Arium info? Well, here's all of it, because we need you to feel something for her, because we're killing her and realise we forgot to tell you anything about her. So here is everything so that you feel it all for her. Oh yeah, don't forget the over-the-top yelling and demanding to kill her and ordering to kill her, because Starfleet always gives up on its crew and never tries, especially when we need the audience to feel something that isn't earned, and everyone is crying because we feel it and you feel. And you better feel it, because everyone is yelling and crying, and the only human is the Vulcan human who has everyone telling her to kill Arium. Amy, please don't give me a Brandon comment again. That was one hugely long sentence.
Yes, this is...
Well, the comment isn't finished.
No, we're still got more.
I will continue. I'm going to breathe first. Yes, did you feel that? The episode was fine, but they did not earn the death of Arium and the emotions they were shoving down our throats. Oh, and I'm calling season 3, episode 5 as the episode when Arium comes back, because they don't commit to any deaths on this show.
Brandon, what are we going to do with you?
Brandon, yeah, but people die, I think. Well, hold on. They don't commit to any deaths in the show, yet we've seen Arium die this episode. If they hadn't killed anybody ever in Discovery, then fine, you could maybe have a cause for complaint. But they did, and I think they did it perfectly fine with lots of sensitivity. Mirror Lorca seems to have died. Mm-hmm. There were many deaths. The Discovery security chief died. Oh, yes. Commander Landry. She got mauled. She got mauled to death by Ripper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, these people are dead. Like dead. Like not coming back dead.
I mean, they've only brought back Culber. That's one person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they brought back Georgiou.
No, but she was never dead.
I know, but
Now, I'm sticking to my story. She was never dead.
No.
And Georgiou died.
No, but the character Georgiou, regardless of whether or not she's kind of prime universe Georgiou or mirror universe Georgiou, they brought her back. Our idea of Georgiou died when the Klingons killed her.
Yeah. Captain Georgiou died.
But then they brought Emperor Georgiou back into a different character, but they're bringing back the actress to play her because we like the character.
Yes, we do. We love the character. Mm-hmm. So, Brandon, yes, we get it. We feel you. I think that's what we're going to say. All right. Well, Jason Sorensen writes, this episode had a very imbalanced approach to whose life has value on the crew. After intense battle, Commander Non appeared to go down with a serious blow and was literally suffocating to death. However, Burnham completely ignores any aid or assistance to her and only focuses on Arium. And the let me talk you out of this with memory recall that Tilly used was way too generic and felt forced, in my opinion. If Arium was truly as cybernetic as it was implied, the virus should have taken over completely. Sorry, folks. The writers seem like they wanted to go for the shock value of a beloved character twisted by technology and ultimately lost to it, a la Locutus Picard. But this viewer just didn't have enough connection to Arium for the loss to be fully impactful. This just felt like Game of Thrones move, death for the sake of shock value. So it is interesting, Jason, that you point out like whose life has more value, because there was definitely, I felt in that fight scene where Burnham could have helped Non, just very easily, thrown her little breathing device. She did have one. It wasn't completely suffocation, but she definitely was, hurting for air. And that Burnham didn't help her, because I was very concerned with that during the whole fight scene. I'm like, you've got to help Non. Plus, if you help Non, she's going to be able to help you 2 against 1 fight Arium. So that was a little illogical to me.
Yes, Nan was suffocating for way too long. I didn't realise that she only needed one of her one side of her breathing apparatus to be able to, or she need, I don't know, did she need both to fully breathe?
I think she needed both to be fully.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from Amy, our Barzan breathing apparatus specialist. I think that went on, not knowing what happened to Nan, went on for way too long. But did maybe Burnham not have an idea about what was more important at the time? Saving Nan or stopping Ariam? Stopping Ariam's ultimately the more important thing. So that's the thing you focus on.
But wouldn't having Nan help achieve that goal faster?
Possibly.
Okay.
But Ariam seems very powerful.
Yes.
And when you've got like the worst phaser in history to shoot with,
that's true.
Then it's not really going to help. I love the death for the sake of shock value in Game of Thrones. Amy, do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yes. Don't get me started about the Red Wedding because I'm still upset about it.
That was years ago.
I know. And it's just, I'm not happy about it.
I love it. It's just kill people randomly. It's awesome. I love it. It's not the fault of the TV show. I'm sure George R. Martin wrote that first. Billy Wells' Logue. I just liked this episode. The best parts were definitely the scenes with Burnham and Spock and Stamets, and I love that Cornwell said to Pike about why he was stood down during the war. All good things, but 1. Telly on the bridge with Admiral Cornwell is just too much to take. It made Telly look childish and extremely unprofessional. Why not give us more about Ariam before killing her off? I didn't need whole episodes or anything, but something more than what they gave us here so that I feel at least a little bit attached and care when she sacrifices herself. It just wasn't there for me. They rushed it and I didn't feel the loss. 3, let me get this straight. They beam in. After they are in, it is said that Discovery is locked onto them for transport. Why couldn't they transport Ariam back to Discovery into a containment field once they knew she was the problem, or during the fight, or when she was separated from Burnham? This was the most confusing thing in a sea of things that didn't make sense in this episode. Overall, it was okay. This time in a season of what has been mostly fantastic. I kind of like Tilly's little idiosyncrasies and her weird kind of behaviours. I'm okay with that because we saw that quite a lot initially in season 1. And I think we get to see that again in times of pressure when she kind of reverts back to her old self and she kind of forgets her kind of newly developed Tilly. So I'm kind of okay with that. It's kind of brings levity into the plot sometimes. I like how Pike just kind of cut her off and says, "What do you have to report?" I liked Pike's reaction to Cornwell when she explains why he was kept out of the war.
Because he's the best. Yep.
It's like she fired a compliment at him, and it hits home, and it's his facial expression. It's like, "Oh, you're so highly valued that we had to keep you out because you're the best of Starfleet." It's like, if anything's going to make me cry about Discovery, it'd be that you're the best of Starfleet. It's like, oh, it got me in the feels. So, I'm not agreeing, Billy, about the speed at which we lost Ariam. I will agree, though, about the whole transporter not in use, but only in use when it serves the plot. But that's just storytelling, I suppose.
Yeah, that has been happening with Trek every iteration. Like, how many times?
Since time immemorial.
Yes.
Since forever.
Well, Nicholas Paul Collinson says, "Wow, I'm really not sure how I feel about this one. A few good points before the main one. I really like Spock saying, 'It is arrogant to assume my state of mind needs fixing.' To me, this really mirrors what I hear from a lot of autistic people who want acceptance, not a cure. I also really like the concept of the logic extremists as antagonists. I don't know if it's intentional, but I see this as a strong allegory for the so-called intellectual dark web of highly bigoted and racist trolls online who like to portray themselves as skeptics and logical. So, on to the elephant in the room. I'm really annoyed at how they appeared to have killed off Ariam in this way. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels like we didn't get anywhere near enough characterization of her for her loss to mean anything. This episode felt like a really good beginning of turning her into a really interesting, well-rounded character, and now we probably won't get that. Why could they just not beam her into the brig, even after she was shot out of the airlock? Still, a great episode and very tense emotional ending, but I am disappointed that we didn't get more of Ariam before now. Even though it's been overdone, I'm kind of hoping for a last-minute rescue in the last episode. So, Nicholas, thank you for your comment. And I like that you talked about Spock saying it is arrogant to assume my state of mind needs fixing. And yeah, just him wanting acceptance instead of a cure, like what a Vulcan should be, just accept for who you are.
I suppose they want to fix him because he's not the Spock that they've become accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I suppose if one of your friends or your family changed so suddenly and so extremely, then you want to seek out the reasons as to why that's happened and kind of help them get back to the way that they were. Is Spock's change positive? Then if it is, then that's fine. Leave him as he is and just deal with the new Spock. If it's not positive, then kind of you have to help him fix himself.
Did you know about the intellectual dark web? This is new information to me, Nicholas. But I can see your point. Like, people out there online who are saying that they're skeptics and logical, but really extremists.
I think the only example I can think of at the moment, without being too controversial, is flat earthers, who believe wholeheartedly that the earth is flat and very confidently talk using kind of pseudoscientific language. It, when tested, doesn't make any sense. So I think that's the intellectual dark web is possibly an oxymoron.
Mm.
Yeah, you are feeling intelligent but living in darkness. You need the light of science and truth shone upon you, perhaps. Lots in that comment, though, from Nicholas. Interesting. It's interesting. I work a lot with autistic people in the school. We have a communication base for pupils that are on the autistic spectrum. And I'm not sure if anybody working with them would want to try and cure them in any way. Because look at all the amazing examples of people that are on the autistic spectrum that have gone on to do amazing things. Like the number of celebrities and actors and musicians. Was Einstein on the autistic spectrum?
They believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that we want to cure something like that. Same way that there's an example recently on there's a science program on one of the radio stations that I listen to, and it was on Down syndrome, and there was talk of potentially within the next couple of decades having a cure for Down syndrome, like a prenatal cure, so you'd be able to, if a baby in utero was identified as having Down syndrome, then they'd be able to go in and edit the genes so that they were born without Down syndrome. But there was calls from parents with Down syndrome children to not take that further forward, because ultimately there would be an ever-dwindling community of people with Down syndrome in the world. And that had never occurred to me. Because as a scientist, if somebody has a condition which is kind of life-altering, I suppose, then you'd want to kind of cure that. But then I don't know anybody personally with Down syndrome, so I don't know the positive impacts that they can have in society. So it would be unfair to just kind of use one brush to kind of cure all. So it's an interesting. There's way more to it than I can just have an opinion on, I think. This is getting deep. Ken Tripp says, Star Trek Discovery brought to you by Cyberdyne. Is that a Cyberdyne? It's another sci-fi movie franchise like the Terminator. Was Cyberdyne not Terminator?
I have not seen any of those movies.
What have you seen, Amy?
I've seen Star Trek. I think that's clear.
Yes. So to continue Ken's comment, I enjoyed reading all the perspectives and they're overwhelmingly supportive and emotional. I finally caught up on the episodes and it isn't working for me and I really wanted to. I was amazed that this season and this episode is resonating. I'm glad. I want this season to be successful for my love of Trek. But this episode, watching this play out, was a bad soap opera. Watching the security chief painfully trying to breathe and is ignored with all the emotion towards a character we barely know, I found it cruel. No one cared to even check. It was so strange how they picked one life over another to be emotional. I understand the situation, but it played horribly. We're certainly back to TOS tropes and plot lines, but I was expecting more all around. Maybe some rewatches and my own state of mind will change my perspective in time. Interesting. Yeah, lots on that. I think that whole scene with Nan and Burnham and Ariam is going to cause people to have a variety of opinions. I think maybe one change that they could have done was to maybe change camera views, go back to Nan every now and again and show her progress on kind of reattaching her breathing apparatus, just to show that, yeah, Burnham's identified that Nan's okay and she can focus on Ariam. I think that would fix everybody's comments. We wouldn't be talking about it so much.
Yeah, well, and I, reading through all these comments and I'm thinking about like some action scenes, like in a police action drama or something. And, they're fighting the bad guys and still like the characters will manage to, kick the gun towards their partner or, do something small to make sure that their partner is okay because that's your partner. Like you've got to take care of them first. And I sort of feel like if these two are fighting against Ariam, like Burnham needs to realize that's your partner. That's your, person who's going to support you and to help you to overcome Ariam right now. And I think, Ken, you're right. She was ignored and that was difficult to watch. I think, well, as I said before, there's just, she could have done something. She could have kicked her breathing apparatus more in her direction, something to get Nan back up on her feet to help her overcome Ariam.
And it would have been a really, really simple change. I'm surprised nobody picked up on that in like post-production. Interesting. I have just Googled Cyberdyne. Cyberdyne is indeed the company from Terminator that created Skynet,
okay.
The AI which ultimately caused the near destruction of the human race. Cyberdyne is also a real Japanese company and they make a powered exoskeleton suit called HAL-5, the Hybrid Assistive Limb System.
Ken would know that.
That's amazing. I love science. It's the power of science, people. I love it.
Our time is up, so wanted to get to our final thoughts, and I have one from Michelle Anderson. And she says, I watched this episode Saturday morning. Here in New Zealand, we are reeling from the tragedy that occurred in our country yesterday. 49 people killed, gunned down in a mosque. Tom Paris and Voyager was sent to a penal colony in New Zealand. It's always made me laugh. Our little peaceful country, a penal colony. And now this wicked, awful tragedy by alleged white supremacists. I hope one day we realize Gene Roddenberry's vision and that Earth becomes a place of peace and acceptance of all races and creeds. And I found it moving that it was Tilly who reached Ariam through memories of love and friendship. Well, Michelle, thank you for writing in. And yes, our hearts go out. It is such a tragedy and senseless. And we had one in Las Vegas that quite literally changed the feeling of the city here. And so I really do feel your pain there and have sympathy for you and your country. And my heart goes out really to you and everyone there in New Zealand.
Yeah, I have friends in New Zealand. New Zealand's quite a common place for, I think, Scottish people to go to a lot of the time, UK people to go over to. And by all accounts, it's a lovely place to live in. And it's a great environment to bring up children. And it's just horrific what's happened there. I read today that the gunman live streamed it on Facebook. I can't imagine why people are driven to think that that's okay to do that. But it's the rise of white supremacy and fascism in the world that we experienced kind of earlier on in the 20th century that I think especially Star Trek fans, when we've had the positivity and the bright future that Star Trek has brought, to fight for that future and not let the minority of people kind of destroy what's positive in the world, regardless of what your beliefs are, what your sexual orientation or gender identity or who you love is in the world, that you should be accepted. As long as you're not breaking any laws and hurting anybody, then kind of let people live their lives and love who they want, or worship who they want in this case. So yeah, my heart goes out to the people in New Zealand at this time. It's horrific what's happened.
Well, Joe, how do you think that the fans responded to this episode, Project Daedalus?
I think mostly positive, as it normally is, but there's always some little niggly bits, and it wouldn't be good Star Trek if the fans didn't have some like kind of issues or questions or niggly bits or things that we didn't like or things that we disagreed on liking. But I think that's one of the good things about the Star Trek fandom. We tend to all get on and like what we like, and we accept other people for liking what they like. I'm not a huge fan of Enterprise, but if you love Enterprise, if that's your go-to Star Trek thing, then I'm all for you loving that. So I think that's the power of Star Trek, is acceptance and accepting people for what they like. So overall, it was a great episode. Again, I loved Ariam's backstory. I'm sorry that she's gone now, but is she gone forever? First opening scene, episode 10, is it next week? They'll beam her back. They're leaving as a cliffhanger. They're going to beam
you're
her
calling
back.
it.
Maybe. What did you think?
Well, as I said at the beginning, this definitely, we had a lot more negative feedback, which absolutely fine. I think the questions and concerns were warranted, and I can understand where they're coming, but yet there's this overwhelming, I love this episode, positive, and seeing the beautiful character development that we're getting that's so rich and so enhances our love each and every episode. So I think that the fans really got it this week. And I really do, listeners, read through all of your comments and posts, and it's just so nice to see everyone getting along. And even when having differing opinions, I see so many times like, well, I can see where you're coming from, but I disagree with you. And then it's dropped, and it's like, okay, I can see your point. We're all in this together, and move on with it. So I really do love the listeners and love what we have here on the Babel Conference. So thank you.
Hear. Viva Discovery.
Well, be sure to check out to the network's Discovery coverage. We have Live from the Edge that airs on Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, apparently we had daylight savings time in America, and there was some people who came on and they're like, oh, it's over. So we really do apologize. Sorry, Liam, for that change. But yes, 9 p.m. Eastern daylight savings time. You can watch Bruce and Brandy and ask questions live and participate in the live chat. And I was there last night. It was pretty fun. So that is released as a podcast on Saturday mornings. Now, our commentary will be available as Tracks from the Edge with our wonderful Mike and Max. And of course, you can catch full analysis on the Edge main show with Patrick and myself. And see why I don't want to give my comments here on Postcards, because I have to do it all again on the main show. To wrap up coverage and the season, join us for Notes from the Edge for links between Discovery and the broader franchise with Chris Jones. You will find all of these in the main feed for The Edge and in the Trek.fm master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and the best place to do that is on the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook, where I will collect your feedback for Postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM or send us an email on the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select The Edge. So, Joe, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm usually on Facebook. I think that's my go-to place for information or about people. I'll be lurking around the Babel Conference. You could get me on Twitter, JoeJoe77UK, or email me. I've got an email address somewhere. It's like joepodcasts@gmail.com, which makes me sound like an old veteran podcaster when I've really done 5. So, yeah.
I know, I'm like, wait a minute, do I know about this email? I'll send you an email.
Yeah, please. I don't have it. Nobody's emailed me. It's my only email address that has no emails. I feel abandoned.
All right.
Please,
well, let's send everyone send Joe an email. Tell him what a great job he did. Really.
And you will get a personal reply.
There you go. Well, you can find me here on the network where I co-host the Edge main show, as I mentioned, with Patrick Devlin. I also co-host Earl Grey with Richard Marquez and Justin Ozer, which is about the next generation. And Joe, we're going to have you on Earl Grey. Oh,
I'm so excited.
Yes, me too. And this topic is way above my head. I'm just saying.
I think I've bitten off more than I can chew. I think it's way above my head. We will be talking about our favourite science moments in Star Trek The Next Generation and how our current understanding of science kind of helps explain those episodes. And also kind of how new science might become episodes if Star Trek The Next Generation was to still be on.
Yeah.
So it's super exciting.
Yes. So go over to Earl Grey and listen to Joe there as well. I am on the Fandom Podcast Network co-hosting Discoville, where we discuss the Orville and Discovery with my good friends Haley Stoddart, Kyle Wagner, and Kevin Reitzel. Now, Joe, do you get the Orville over there?
I'd love, well, technically no.
Okay.
Edit that bit out, yeah. Yes, I've seen all of the Orville. The two-parter.
Identity, part 1 and part 2.
Yes, that was some sci-fi. That was mind-blowingly good. I love it. Much better season 2 than season 1.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they found that nice balance between kind of comedy and real kind of hard-hitting sci-fi and current affairs in the future. So
I enjoyed the Orville. There's some that are clunkers, but overall, I really like it. So
yeah.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, but my favorite place is right there on the Babel Conference. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producer, visit patreon.com/TrekFM for all the details. And I would like to thank our associate producers. They are Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoab Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, Cornelia Reutner, Ryan Mallett, Chris Trebuzio, and Brian Malosh. See, Brian, I said your name correctly. Just so you know, I listen. So thank you for supporting Trek FM and especially The Edge. Joe, I cannot thank you enough for coming on, pitch hitting at the last moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Pleasure to talk with you again.
If it was anybody else, then I wouldn't be here.
Well, I appreciate it.
It's purely down to the beautiful Amy Nelson and her
Oh.
spectacular hosting abilities. Amy, I heart you.
Well, listeners, join us next week for another episode of Postcards from the Edge. Hailing frequencies open.
That's like 2 hours. We are crazy.
Oh, Joe. We need August to get here sooner.
I know. I was going to say, when do you arrive in Vegas? But you live in Vegas.
I'm already here waiting for you to arrive.
Exactly. We fly in on the 28th
Okay.
of July, which is Ewan's birthday.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to bake a cake.
All right. I will order one.
No, Amy. No. We want a hand-baked cake.
Oh, dear. Okay. Pressure's on.
I have issues with people saying things that were like handmade, like hand-baked or hand-cooked chips.
Okay.
Like, no, you didn't take slices of raw potato and plunge your fist into like deep fat. Yeah, like a deep fat fryer. Yeah, you didn't keep your hand in the oven with the cake batter. So it's
Okay,
not
so that's
hand-cooked.
why we say it's homemade, not handmade.
Yeah. Well, we get handmade a lot of stuff, and I was like, no, nobody died in the making of this product. Sorry.
Okay.
Just a semantic thing with me.
All right. Well, I will
Anyways.
think about making a homemade cake.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay.
I bake a lot, so I can give you tips.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.